say, this is Turning the Turntables, and we have Brandon Breeze, not Lil Breeze, Brandon Breeze Briscoe here, major producer, and just all around good person, businessman, been in the industry for many years. Heck, he started in the clubs when he was 5 years old. at the Heaven and the Hell.
Heaven and Hell party, man. Oh man, I'm gonna do one of them parties one day.
So you do know some notable celebrities. You probably work with a few. Are there any that you would be willing to mention?
Well, I'll tell you who I started out with professionally, that opened the doors, with the Braxtons.
Okay.
The Braxtons. Of course, I went to Bowie State University, and a couple of the Braxtons were there. Tony was there, and her other sister Tracy.
Okay.
Both went to Bowie State, and the way I got introduced, well, actually, they had just started an electronic music class at Bowie, production class. They didn't have it. So they just started, and of course I signed up. But by that time, I'm already in studios and working on stuff. And so in the class, Dr. Knight was the teacher at the time. I remember Dr. Knight. And in the class, they said, you know.
Dr. Knight is significant because of what?
Dr. Knight?
Yeah.
Well, he was the teacher. He was a professor for the electronic music class.
Right. He's got some family members too, don't he, in the game?
Dr. Knight, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought he did. But yeah,
I'll have to check.
Yeah.
He might, because he was in the music, but he was the one that was in charge of the music department at Bowie at the time, and he was teaching the electronic music class. And you know, I'd already started going to studios and messing with it, so I was familiar with how to do some of this stuff. And so during that time, he would tell us to partner up with somebody to do an actual production.
Okay.
So we had to, you know, make the music and then record vocals or do something. And I partnered up with this young lady named Tony Braxton. And of course, when we presented our stuff, we were killing the classroom.
Right.
Now, I didn't know that she was part of the scene. I just knew, you know, we ended up, I don't even know why we partnered up. It wasn't that she knew anything about me or I knew anything about her. It just happened to be it.
Just love.
And so then they would call us Peaches and Herb, or they're like, well, don't let Peaches and Herb partner up anymore. And that's how me and Tony, you know, became friends. And then later on, what happened is my other frat brother, Dwayne, who was on my line, he was a choreographer. And so he kept telling me, man, you need to come to the gym because there's this group I'm working with. And I ain't paying attention to it, you know. And eventually, one of the managers, Dr. Jesse Ingram, he was a professor up there, but he was also an attorney.
Okay.
And he was their attorney, or I think he was their manager.
Right.
But he was also acting as their attorney. And he had got wind that I was working with different people. And he told me, hey, I need you to come to this meeting one day. And he told me the gym.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's what Dwayne keeps talking about. So I go to the meeting eventually, and I walk in there, and there's these girls there, and it was the Braxtons.
Okay.
And then my frat bro there was Dwayne. He was there, and he's looking like, he was like, I keep telling you to come to these things. You wouldn't come. Well, what made you come today? I'm like, well, Dr. Ingram invited me. And that's when I found out, and I saw Tony. I'm like, what's she doing here?
Right.
And that's when I found out that they were a singing group.
So that was the group everybody been trying to
The
get
Braxtons,
you to meet.
yeah. And so that's how I started working with, you know, the Braxtons, and eventually, of course, you know, they were signed to Arista Records. I was introduced to some other producers, Ernesto Phillips. He was in that group, Starpoint.
Yeah.
So he was in the group Starpoint, and then there was another guy.
I got Starpoint.
Yeah, they had a couple slow songs that made the slow jam cassette tapes, and so that's how I got introduced to them. Who else? It was another guy named Bill. I can't think of his last name, but he was a guitar player, and he played for a lot of major artists in studio sessions. Okay. Your big R&B artists back then. And then I met eventually I met somebody that ended up becoming my mentor in music, a guy named Daryl Pearson, who was the guitar player for Jodeci. Okay. And Daryl actually ended up being a big major producer. As a matter of fact, in the 90s, he was considered one of the top producers in the world, R&B producers.
So you learned from him?
I learned from him, yeah. Start following him around.
So here you are now.
And here I am now, man.
So let's shift a little into the production world.
Okay.
So what do you do?
I produce, man. I create. I do consulting for artists now. I still work with a lot, and my love brought me back to working with independent artists and discovering artists and brokering situations when I can. But I do music production.
So you was in the studio just before you came here?
Actually, absolutely.
You know, and you're working with an artist.
Working with artists, yeah.
And so where y'all at? Is it done, or are you mastering it, or y'all just
The
messing
artist,
around?
the artist that I was just working with,
Yeah.
we're doing new recordings for him.
Okay.
Doing new recordings for him. But most of the artists that I deal with now are either signed to or Sony has, like one of the artists I'm working with right now. I don't know if I can say his name.
Don't.
I'm not sure. So we're not gonna say his name.
Don't say his name.
But one of the artists that I'm working with now, Sony has just signed to a promotion deal, and they grabbed him. This guy has a phenomenal voice. And I can't. I better not say his name. I want to leave that alone.
Right.
He
Never know.
He has a management team and all that, so I'm
Right.
gonna leave that alone. But I've been working with him for about 2 years. His team brought him to me because they wanted to get some real R&B music.
Gotcha.
They didn't want the hip hop version of. They wanted some real R&B. They wanted
They want your ear.
instrument orchestration, yeah, versus just sampling and placement of beats and stuff like that.
Right.
And so they, and I've done some work with different, of course the Braxtons, and of course working with Tony, and then
So what's the how I say this? What's the most challenging experience you've ever had in the music game? That in your mind you're like, man, I sure hope I don't have to deal with that again.
Oh, okay, one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, in the music game, man, you got some egos, and you got some narcissists out there. You got some people, man. I had to learn. I'm not a star. I never was a starstruck person, and I had to learn how to play the game. I did. I really did. And like I had Durl as a mentor, but Durl wasn't always around in my experience of when I first started going up to New York, working out of I would work out of Quad Studios sometimes, and then I got invited to work out of Corey Rooney studio. Corey Rooney, who was at the time, he was working with Mariah Carey, Boyz II Men, J-Lo. He's produced everybody.
Right.
And so I got a chance to learn from some of the best, the do's and do nots, how to go to an industry party and stuff like that. And then you have to, I learned business wise, to get a deal done sometimes you would have to study who you want to be meeting business wise, because you stroking the ego. Hey, yeah, you're such and such that did I remember seeing you at the Grammys, you did such and such. I remember you were. I didn't remember none of that. I just read on the person before I met him, and had to be like, you have to stroke egos.
Right.
Some of these people are used to their egos being stroked. And
they want to feel good.
They want to feel good.
Yeah.
They want to feel good. They want to know. And I was one of the people. I can remember music. I remember all that, but I wasn't a name person.
Right.
And so even when I went out to LA, I call that the national drop names city of the world. I would go out to LA and you would meet people and they would talk to you and you might introduce yourself. And hey, I'm Breeze. And it'd be like 15 minutes before you know their name, but they'd drop in, oh yeah, the other day I was with Kobe Bryant and this party had such and such. I'm like, but who are you?
Right.
And so in LA, it's a whole different game, a different vibe, and I had to, you have to learn how to navigate in this industry.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a small world.
And then you pick and choose what you really like.
Absolutely.
So what do you really like about this industry?
You know what? I love creating. I think, I'm a spiritual person. And so if you take it to the essence of what it is, when it says we're created in the image of the Almighty Creator, what did he do? He created. That's what he did. He spoke things into existence. He saw what the end was in the beginning.
Preach, Breeze.
And so, it's the part of hearing something in your head or taking something that nobody ever heard before and creating it to the point that somebody wants to hear it over and over again.
So what's the best music you've ever done?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
I mean, you haven't done something and it's like, man, speaking of spiritual, it's like that one just touched you like, yeah, this is magic. This is beautiful.
Well, you know what happens? I have tracks that I love.
Right.
I have tracks that I love, and I know the history of the track. I know the vibe that I was in that moment, And it might not necessarily be the tracks that artists come in and say they want.
Right.
So that's why it's hard to say. But if you say there's tracks that artists want, but sometimes the tracks that artists want are the ones that I want to skip over.
Right.
So sometimes I'm going down a list as they're selecting tracks that they might want to buy and stuff like that, where the label says, "Hey, send me this and that," and the production or management team might be there, and I'm going down the list, and I don't always remember the names of all my songs.
Right.
You know, you hope that
you got a lot of them.
You hope that you have some that you skip around, have a lot of them in the vault, and every once in a while I might hit one that I don't like.
Right.
But I hear the introduction of it. I say, "Oh, let me go to the next one." They be like, "Wait, let me hear that."
Right.
And then that same song that I didn't like, that production that I can't say I didn't like. It's just not in my interpretation my favorite, or I just for whatever reason I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah, it's not hitting.
And
I was like that with Prince's music when it first came out.
Yeah.
I ain't like Prince.
Well, that's my favorite artist.
I didn't like Prince.
That's my favorite. I was
like, what's this noise? You know, and it grew on me because I had to play it in the clubs.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know.
Was he requested a lot? Prince in the beginning? Was that something like?
So I was DJing in New York City.
Okay.
Right. So I was DJing at the major clubs in New York City. So when Controversy came out,
okay, yeah.
you know what I mean?
That drop.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, and plus that you can mix up, you know. Okay. And so there were certain songs by Prince that I played because everybody wanted it.
Right.
That was the only reason I played.
You didn't necessarily like it.
I didn't. I mean, that little cling, cling, cling sound just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, what the heck? This sounds, you know what I mean?
You know what?
But I love Prince now. I mean, I love his music, you know, his history in terms of who I am, and I mean, I got all his music, you know, including that triple album set that he just said here.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean in terms of just some sounds.
It's just certain things that you don't gravitate towards, and other people like it, and they make it. But the funny thing is, they'll take that track.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they put their vocals on it, and that's where the songwriters come into play. But by the time they put their vocals on it, now you like, I didn't hear that on this track.
Right.
And so that's the magical side of. That's the flip side of sometimes them taking a track that I wasn't crazy about producing, and they take it, and by the time them vocals get on there and the arrangement get on, it's like, oh, okay, I see where you went with it.
Right.
And now I like the track again, you know, something like that. But yeah, it's so I don't know. You know, I've worked with different people. Like I worked with members from Drew Hill to, like I said, of course, you know, working with Daryl Pearson and Daryl. So Daryl Pearson still produces a lot of people, and as a matter of fact, him and Timberland, just because Daryl was part of that whole Devontae Swing, you know, that's, you know, you had a couple major studios in this area when that was happening. You had Horizon, the guy named Paul was over top of Horizon. Then you had the other studio that I was coming up under, Digital Pros, and Daryl was working a lot out of Horizon, and you know, I would be invited to go to some of them sessions, and that's when you would run across seeing him work with the guys from Joe to C, or you know, Tweet might come in the building. Then you had, you know, Genuine, who was from this area, and stuff like that, and you would kind of like, you know, that's when you would see everything, but the whole production of everything that you start learning all the little tricks, and then you know, it's good when you don't have Yesman in your corner, because you know, Daryl, like sometimes I would do production, I would let my mentor Daryl Pearson hear it. And, you know, sometimes Daryl would hit me with, all right, don't use that drum sound ever again for the next 2 months, because what he was teaching me is he was forcing me to learn how to use different sounds. You know, and that kind of bruised my ego sometimes, but it made me the better producer so that I could be more versed in being able to do everything from a slow song to a tempo song to a mid tempo.
Plus, you already have an R&B ear.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of producers, when I hear their tracks, I listen to it, and the one thing that I try to share with them, just subtly, is a little funk flavor. Most of these producers, the stuff they're making now, it has no funk whatsoever in it. And I'm like, man, if you could just put a little funk in there, that may just bring it up, but they don't know how.
I don't know, depending on how old they are, they don't even listen to it. They don't study music the way we used to study it. And yeah, I think I was forced to study music. Well, my uncle, like I said, they grew up in the household with me. He was older than me, but just hearing him listen to different music, and then the record collections and stuff like that, And then I think the other thing that forced me to really like study music in different eras and learn how to incorporate some of the stuff that they might have done, you know, into what I was doing was before I even started in the studios, the way I got pulled into studios is I would tour people.
Right.
I was playing music. I was I was either playing the keyboards or percussion to people. And
so you was out there.
Yeah, I was out there doing the touring thing, and then I learned real quick that it was fun to tour, but that's not where the money was all the time. Nowadays it probably is. But then it was the per diems. I mean, I was young. I was like, oh, we going what city? We going to this city? Put up in the hotels. You on the you on the tour bus or the Winnebago.
I'm a 19-year-old DJ and I got a hotel room and free food.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
So that's everything right there. What we living like in this hotel is mine.
Yeah, I'm a star.
Yeah,
you know, show up the next spot, set up the
Yeah.
equipment, do the sound checks, and you know, I'm taken care of. Yeah, I remember those days.
But I used to love it, man, because, you know, even getting back to the DJ and stuff, like when you be on tour, you know, sometimes before we would even hit the stage, it was the DJ getting everybody to break their sweat and loosen up.
Right.
You know, that DJ would always be performing, you know, getting a part. As people were coming into the clubs or the arenas that we were performing or whatever, and you would still see that, like, yeah, he getting the vibe going on. And even when you segue in the you know, the stage people are changing the equipment for the next group.
Right.
It was that DJ.
Yeah.
It was there, man. And you know, so you just learn to appreciate all of it, man.
So when I have DJs here, I ask them these questions. So I'm gonna ask you. This is a test, but it's a real easy. It's an either or test. All right. So let's just kick it off.
All right.
Old school or new school?
Whoa. All right, I'm gonna go old school.
All right.
Old school.
Techno or house music?
House.
Okay. 70s rap or 80s hip hop?
80s hip hop, man. That's what I came.
Okay.
Sorry, 70s rap. 80s
Rock and roll or country?
Whoa. Rock and roll or country? Rock and roll or country? Dang. That's a good one, man. Country has the lyrics, the storylines. Rock and roll has some of the I'll give rock and roll the edge. Damn.
Why you say that?
Because they have some of the stuff that I remember. I mean, you know why? Because it was infused to our music.
It's true.
Run DMC, Walk This Way.
That's true.
It was Aerosmith, and then, you know, me playing. I was an athlete coming up,
Queen.
so I remember
Queen.
That's how we used to come out football and hitting our pads with rock.
Yeah, that's true.
So
rock.
Rock got infused. Now I wasn't a heavy metal head or nothing like that, but rock got infused to our. I mean, first of all, I shouldn't say got infused to our music, but we started rock.
Right.
All right, history wise. So we.
So speaking of that, so let me do it this way: soft rock or blues?
Blues. Okay. All right. Now you break the categories down. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go blues. I wasn't a soft rock person. Just like I'm going off the track. Like something about soft rock didn't feel authentic to me. And not saying that it wasn't. I don't want to get in trouble. But it's just like I'm probably gonna get in trouble saying this. If you were jazz, right? I like real jazz. I want Thelonious Monk. I want Coltrane and Miles Davis. I want that. Kenny G and Najee and all of them wasn't real jazz to me. I'm gonna get in trouble. I guess it was soft jazz, right? But it felt more like even though they were doing original music, it felt like cover songs to me.
Gotcha.
You know, and that's what soft rock is. It's cover song. So, I'm not saying that it was. That's just what it felt like to me.
I tell people, because I heard this, I was learning something, and so jazz is spelled two ways.
Okay.
Originally, it was spelled J-A-S-S.
Okay.
Jazz.
Okay.
And then, you know how back in the day, everybody wanted to talk cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up being jazz.
Okay, with the Z.
Yeah, but so when it was SS, that's old school jazz. John Coltrane, you know, Thelonious Monk, Ella Fitzgerald,
Yeah, that's me right there, man.
You know, even Phoebe Snow back in the day.
Okay.
Or what was the other lady? What is it called?
Diana.
No. Long before then. See, now I'm getting stuck, but it was Mississippi Goddamn. That was her song. That's the name of the song.
That one.
Yeah. It's anyway. We getting off track.
That was my fault. That was my fault.
So this is easy.
Okay.
So you're familiar with bounce music, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bounce music has come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Big Freedia put it on the map significantly, along with a lot of the other folks down there in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So, go-go or bounce music?
Come on, man. You trying to give me. First of all, go-go is the answer. But even if go-go wasn't the answer, I still would say go-go. I live in D.C., man. I grew up in D.C. You get me ran out of town, man. My cousins would come looking for me and everything. Nah, go-go. You gotta go-go.
All right.
The go-go is like no other music in the world.
The percussions are just awesome.
Yeah. That's why we love live music here.
All right. Reggae or Latin?
Reggae, man.
Reggae, man.
I got some West Indies on my family, so I'm going reggae. I love the Caribbean. I mean, I love Latin, but I'm gonna give reggae the edge on that one.
So I was gonna say classical or jazz, but I know you love jazz.
Yeah, it's gonna be jazz.
All right. So now you're a performer.
Yeah.
So light systems or no lights?
Light systems or no lights?
Do you think light systems are necessary when you're out there performing, DJing, and the club?
Part of the move, man.
All right.
That's part of the move.
There are people that go out there with no lights. Or have like one little light.
That would be weird to me. I mean, in a house party, I saw that before.
Well, yeah.
But if I go to, I don't know, when I was going with my cousins to DJ and do all that, we brought lights.
Yeah.
That was part of the move, man.
I agree.
And I'm gonna leave that part alone. But it was part of the move. But I think it was part of the move for a reason too. I think when you go back to, I think one time when I was over here, you and I talked about it, when you go back to those New York clubs when everybody, athletes, entertainment was going to that.
Yeah.
What was the big warehouse one that you
the Paradise Garage.
Right,
yeah.
places like that. Mm-hmm. Those lights and
Bonds International, Studio 54, Xenox. Yeah.
The lights were part of the move. So either to me, and I'm not an advocate of one or the other, but drugs was a big part of music.
Yeah.
The drugs was a big part of music. The drinking is a big part of music. And when you have, I don't know, whatever drugs was going on or the drinking that was going on, when those lights were part of the mesmerizing, just part of the groove. You saw the ball that went around. And
mirror ball?
The mirror ball.
I got a couple of them.
You got mirror ball. That's a classic. That was I just remember that from the disco era.
Yeah. I got
with that.
I still haven't figured out where I'm gonna put it.
Yeah.
But I got a couple.
Yeah. So you saw all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was part of it. Almost just like sometimes you would get mesmerized by all.
I got a strobe light. That'll mesmerize.
That'll put you under right there.
Yeah. I have my lights. My somebody else working the lights sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, do not have that strobe light on for a long period of time. I went to a party just before COVID, house party, basement. And the guy had the strobe light on for like 20 minutes.
I miss you.
And I'm thinking, I'm going upstairs, and he thought it was cool. I'm like, and you a DJ? You supposed to know better.
Certain people that got certain conditions can't be around that either, man.
That's true. That's true. You can fall. It'll mess up your equilibrium. And as a DJ, you're supposed to know that. Put it on a little bit, take it off,
So set the mood real quick, get it out of there.
So
I say lights for that answer. You gotta have a light show, right?
Gotta have a light show.
Gotta have a light show.
So we're talking about DJing. This is what the podcast is all about. I'm here with Breeze, turning the turntables with DJ Dr. Reggie B. But in turning the turntables, I give you an opportunity also to say whatever you want to say. If there's questions I didn't ask or an area that we didn't go into that you would like to share with the audience.
Well, I would say shout out to all the DJs, first and foremost.
Thank you.
Because y'all make the music go around, y'all make the world go around just like the turntables. Every fabric of the music industry counts on a DJ. So the radio stations have to have a DJ to play it. Mm-hmm. The clubs have to have a DJ to play it. When you go to parties, the music has to be there. And so shout out to the DJs. Love the DJs. Y'all. I consider DJs artists. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to see some DJs taking advantage of the opportunity to be artists and producers. Mm-hmm. They know how, with DJ Khaled and you got other DJs, DJ Clue, and you know, so on and so on. Even before them, that were coming out with albums and featuring artists on their albums because they had an ear for music, and so they knew how to put it together, or instruct people to put it together. But I don't know anything else. You know what? I saw DJing transform the music industry also, especially for, you know, when Diddy came along, that whole era, that fused R&B and hip hop.
That's true.
You know,
right.
That fused, you know, even with Diddy, I was watching that. You know, Jodeci came out. R&B artists used to come out with a clean look or the, you know, smooth look and stuff like that. But that changed in the '90s. You know, R&B artists was coming looking out like hip hop artists.
Right.
You know, they brought out the street, and that's the beauty of the DJ. All this comes from the DJ, right? Our clothes,
right?
You know, our style, what. I mean, we basically are the trendsetters in music. People look at artists.
That's true.
And they look at DJs, and they look at the people at the parties or the clubs. And
they want to be like them.
And they want to be like them.
Right.
And they want to dress like them. Right. What's cool? What's in fashion? And you're going to see it from what was birthed through music and what was birthed at the party. That was the DJs were the highlights. The DJs were the highlights. The rappers were just, what do you call it? Accessories.
Right.
At first. Right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of like.
I'm glad you said that.
All right.
Because, you know, DJs be coming out there with, we rolling up in there an hour, 2 hours before the party with all our equipment and sound checks and doing everything. And then, you know, the rapper just show up. Party already started. You know, we done did all this work, you know, at home, load it up, come there, set it up, and rap it. Yo, man, give me the mic.
So where was your favorite place to DJ?
My favorite place? Well, that's a good question. Club-wise, well, my favorite place to DJ a lot of times is just right at home. Okay. In the zone where I'm getting creative and I can just do stuff and, you know, like Good Times. When I was learning Good Times, you know, Good Times, my sheet. You know, I played that one record for a whole hour, two hours. Right. You can't do that at a club. No. So I went to Fashion Institute of Technology, New York, and we had a couple of clubs there, Club 27, and so I was kind of like the DJ. But I liked that because it was just a variety of people, you know, from all over. I mean, and all kinds of races and nationalities, because it's FIT. Of course, you know, some of the finest looking people are there. But Leviticus International is always my my favorite. Leviticus International was at 34th and Broadway, and that's where all of the stars went to after they did their show at Madison Square Garden. Okay. So I got the DJ for Rick James, Tina Marie, Stephanie Mills, Temptations, Luther, you know, and many more, because I'm DJing. People just showing up in this type of club. Yeah. So.
And the club was called what?
Leviticus International.
Like the Bible Leviticus?
Like Bible Leviticus.
That's an interesting name for a club, Leviticus.
Leviticus International. Now here's something else. If you've watched, what's that show? Not Power, but Empire. What's the name of that club? Leviticus.
Is it? Okay.
So here's something weird. Wow. The name of the club in Empire is Leviticus. The color, the look, and the gold and everything was similar to Leviticus International in New York.
So somebody knew that recreated it?
I don't know. But the Leviticus on Empire is filmed and everything. It's supposed to be Philly. It's set as Philly. Right. And I'm from Philly. Wow. So I look at it like all that they're doing, you know, that's Philadelphia. But then it's Leviticus, and I was a house DJ at Leviticus. But the reason why I like Leviticus is because a guy named Perry, he gave me a shot. Okay. So you got to be 23 years old to get to the club. Okay. I was 19. Wow. And I was shopping my mixtapes everywhere, and I came up there, and I don't know how I found that club, but you know, in the afternoon I showed up in there, and I'm like, I want to DJ for you. They're looking at me, you know, who's this little kid, right? Right. I mean, hindsight, I'm probably thinking, you know, I wouldn't have let me in there. Right. So they said, all right, there's the turntables. Show us what you got. Man, they had techniques MK1200s, Quartz Digital Lock. I never played on them before.
Okay.
You know, they had it was a club, right? And I'm like, damn, I done died and come to heaven. And so I started practicing, and they basically said, you know, you good enough. We'll give you Wednesdays.
Okay.
And I said, well, can I come early and practice? They said, yeah, you come early as you want. You know, just let everybody know who you are. And so I was able to practice for hours. You know, long before anybody started showing up.
Did it make a difference hearing him on those speakers?
Exactly. And then the sound engineer would show me how to work everything, you know, and the lights. And I mean, it was a dream come true. Yeah. And so every now and then I just have a flashback, and I can see the turntables. It had a real DJ booth, you know, and you know, with monitors and everything else, and a door, so I could close it and lock it if I didn't want the fans. Yeah. So it had telephone in there, you know, so that the producers, because this was the main club, but upstairs, you know, they had a separate bar where they would take some of the artists, and you know, kind of like a green room. And so they may call me and say, hey, Rick James wants you to come up, and he just want to meet you, you know, stuff like that. So I'll put on Marvin Gaye or something, you know, long, and go upstairs.
Buy you some time.
Yeah, so to me, that's what put me on and just took it to a professional level. And then, of course, you know, I became like a star, right? Because once you DJ at a place like that, which is like, you know, Studio 54 or wherever, now people hire you, you know, featuring DJ Dr. Reggie B from Leviticus International.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Credit. You got credit.
You got credit.
You got a good line of credit.
Then you start seeing your name and lights and all that other stuff. And then the ego sets in. Yeah. I had a run-in with Bernard Wright. Tom Brown produced him.
Okay.
And he did a concert, but I was the DJ. And it was my club, you know, Club 27. So he did a party there. And then he went longer than he should have. Okay. You know about that.
Did you cut him off?
I cut him off. So when everything was done, he wanted to talk.
Yeah, of course.
And so I'm like, you know,
time's up, bro.
Hey, plus this is my spot. All these boys, these my boys, you know, and security, you know. So, but yeah, I Leviticus International.
Leviticus International.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.